Tiger fans, what a monster of the last couple weeks it is. Let's see what's been going on these past few days. Come join me. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? I'm Teddy Brennan here on Louisiana Boot Crew Media. Thanks for joining me again. And we're it's Bama week. It doesn't get any better than that. If you grew up in this rivalry, certainly it just means a little bit more. Definitely doesn't hit as hard without old Nick on the sidelines. But hey, maybe Nick will be on the a sideline next year. We'll see. But Bama week, that's the best. And so we're going to break that down for you a little bit tonight. We'll definitely have more for you tomorrow. But this episode is as always, sponsored by Revel Asphalt Services. Absolutely best in the business, on time, on budget. Give my dear friend Millard a phone call, 225-773-3990, 225-773-3990. On time, on budget, commercial properties, parking lots, driveways. They're going to do whatever you need them to do. They work with you. Honestly, the best of the best. You drive anywhere in the city or the area, you see something that's first class. That was probably Revel Asphalt Services. So once again, 225-773-3990. Thank you to Millard. So it all kind of started on Tuesday when Dr. Wade Roos was brought in as president and coming over from McNeese State, and he was obviously one of the favorites, if not the favorite, the favorite. And so look, he pulled it off, and just a few hours later, just kind of crazy out of nowhere, you kind of had some questions as to what was going to happen with the athletic director. Obviously, the head football coach position was open. And then Verge Osbury was named the athletic director. Scott Ballard, chairman of the board, came out and said that this was going to be his job. But that's when things got a little complicated and a little screwed up. The next day, there was some great reporting done by Piper Hutchinson. And it was really about Wade Roos and saying that he was going to need to evaluate Verge a little bit more. He wanted more stability. He'd only been on the job 8 hours. He didn't know what the difference was between permanent and interim, or not permanent and interim. And it just seemed a little bit like a mess. Roos was on some different shows yesterday. I believe he was on with Moscona. If not Moscona, he was on with one of the big shows. And he was talking, and it just kind of felt more confusing. Look, today some clarity came out on the Louisiana LSUsports.net bio. Verge Osbury, the interim label had been removed. Roos has come out and said that he didn't mean any. Really, the president's office, they didn't mean any word salad or anything to that extent. That this was Verge's opportunity. He had full authority to hire the football coach. And so, look, he's the athletic director now. Hopefully this can be put to bed. Wade Roos in at president, and James Dalton coming in, the provost, coming over from Bama. He's going to be the provost also at LSU, and he's going to be the chancellor of the Baton Rouge campus. It sounds like that's something that was changed this year, that there's going to be a difference. Normally the president is also in charge of the Baton Rouge campus. Now there's a separate thing. James Dalton will be the chancellor, and Roos will oversee all of the LSU campuses. You saw what was going on with UNO today. They're becoming a part of the LSU system and changing colors to purple and gold. I don't know how a lot of people feel about that. That's a conversation for another day. I think the interesting thing that I was reading about with James Dalton is obviously coming over from the University of Alabama. And so that definitely perks everybody's ears up a little bit, because you think about a connection maybe to Nick Saban. And so, so there's some stability now in place with the administration. So any prospective head coaches, they know what they're dealing with. Two of the big three dominoes have fallen And so now you move forward to what's going to be looking as a head coach. Honestly, anybody can speculate at this point. Nick Saban is obviously a very popular choice. It's going to be really hard to get him out of retirement. Lane Kiffin and Dillingham from Arizona State. You're Norris from North Texas. There are a lot of guys out there, and so we could speculate all day. But look, right now it's Frank Wilson's job. He's the interim head coach, and I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more. He is, as a buddy of mine likes to say, interim Frankie. Like you call him interim Eddie Orgeron, interim Frankie Wilson, and so here we go. And he's kept recruiting stable, no decommitments. If anything, you got a 3-star wide receiver commitment. I know not a huge splash, but look, it says that you're adding, you're not subtracting. And so look, Frank Wilson talking with the media over the past couple of days in different forums, and the big emphasis is being more physical, running the football. You're really going to see Harlem Berry and Caden Durham really getting going. Certainly, I think what's interesting in terms of running the football too is that Michael Van Buren has been getting more snaps in practice. Nussmeier is still your guy. He's still the starter, and if he's hot, let him roll. But it looks like number 11 is going to have some packages. And look, I think you need to give him the opportunity, because whenever LSU's beaten Alabama, whether it was in 22 with Daniels, 19 with Burrow, 11 and 10 with Jefferson, 07 with Flynn, you got to have a guy that can beat them dual threat, with their feet. And so Michael Van Buren, he absolutely gives you that ability with the zone read. And just if the pocket breaks down, he gives you some improvisation, and he can make something out of nothing. Nuss somewhat has that ability, but for some reason he doesn't take that opportunity. And, I think Nuss has been hurt. I think a lot of us have thought that for quite some time, that Nussmeier has just not been the same guy this year. So look, we're just going to see what happens. Frank Wilson bringing in some different motivational tactics, like the drum, kind of bringing back that old Eddie-O, one heartbeat. And so it's just kind of one of those things where you get that interim bump. And so you play a big emotional game here against Alabama. You never know what can happen. And LSU is still one of the most talented teams in the country. They win the next 4. You never know. You never know. They could sneak into the playoff. I'm not saying they're going to, but there's still a lot to play for. And Bama has a lot riding on it too. Top 5, only one loss. Ty Simpson, hell of a quarterback, going to be one of the Heisman finalists. So you got a lot going on there. And so, but it's going to be very difficult because injury report wise, looks like Whit Weeks, he's going to be out this week. And he's doubtful. He's putting weight on the ankle, but the lateral movement and what would you say? The ability to take on the pain may not be there. And so it looks like 40's going to be out. That's tough. It's not just anybody. You're losing your captain, your play caller, an All-American, a top 2-3 round draft pick next year. So, an NFL football player, and you don't want to lose those kind of guys. Good news, Carius Kern, he looks like he's going to be probable doing that left tackle spot in for Tyree Adams, who looks like he's out for quite some time. But Carius Kern, he's got all the ability. I've been wanting him at guard all year. But look, it doesn't matter. As long as he's on the field, I think you can tell that he makes a difference. He's physical, he's violent, and he gives you something that the Tigers honestly haven't had on the offensive line this year. And so if number 57 is able to go, your offensive line is much better. And so, look, we're going to have a lot more for you tomorrow in terms of breaking down some matchups with the Tide. But just absolutely a crazy, crazy week. The crazy weeks these past 2 have been, just from the firing of Brian Kelly to the firing of Scott Woodward, and then Wade Roos and Verge Osbury, and then the back and forth with Verge. Then you got to play a game Saturday. Then you're still talking about who are potential candidates moving forward, recruiting, so much going on. And so But look, one thing, Brian Kelly, he did put out a statement. It was classy, and so I think that did say a lot about him, wishing the Tigers well, wishing Coach Frank well. So look, he came here to do what he needed to do. He did stabilize the program. It's better than it was 4 years ago, and if that was the journey that was meant to be, that was the journey that was meant to be. But the journey for us here at Louisiana Boot Crew Media is that we're going to be finished for tonight, but we're going to have more for you tomorrow. Post-game show for you on Saturday. Thanks to Boot Crew Media, as always, Justin, Ross, the whole crew, and of course Millard and Millard Morrison and Revel Asphalt Services, 225-773-3990. Have a great rest of your Thursday. So much that we've been taking in and a lot more to talk about. Go Tigers.